Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I'm your host, music producer Chickwood Beats, and I've got a special episode today featuring insights from some of the music tech executives that I've had on the show so far. Jonathan Odekirk, founder and chief business officer of Smart Label, Ralph Tajian, founder and chairman of Intercept Music, and Jesse Flores, vice president of artist and label partnerships at Intercept Music. So I'm excited to be bringing this episode to you, and before I go ahead and kick it off with those interviews, I gotta give a shout out to my home station, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then there's a brief pause for the cause, and then we'll jump right into those interview highlights. Alright, here we go. Hey, I'm a Chickwood Beats, multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit chickwoodbeats.com for resources for artists and instrumentals in various genres available for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's chickwoodbeats.com. That's ACHICKWITBEATZ.com. Let's make something happen. All right, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I'm your host, music producer, Chickwood Beats, and I'm glad to say that I have in the virtual building with me today, Jonathan from Smart Label. If you could, just give everybody a little bit of background as to who you are and what Smart Label is and how you put the dots together.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for having me. Like you said, my name is Jonathan. I'm one of the founders together with Joost Rode of the tech company in the music industry named Smart Label. We are launching a worldwide alternative for parties like Spotify, so a new DSP. But then I always say, in a way that it should be, so that as an artist you have 100% control and transparency about your fan data, but you have also something to say about the valuation of your IP, and a way to directly connect with your listeners, because nowadays as an artist I don't know who I'm selling my music to, and I cannot determine the price I'm doing it for. And that is basically the only business in the intellectual property space this is the case. So yeah, that's why we are building this.
Absolutely, and it's so important, especially with all the different things that are happening now. Since we've been connected on LinkedIn, I've seen some of the things that you've shared your insight about as far as intellectual property. And so for those who may be listening and not fully understand, because I know a lot of times there are people who aren't creatives that think that sometimes artists are overreacting to AI, and it's not that all artists are against it. It's just kind of like, hey, this is my intellectual property. How can I be compensated for it? So yeah, if you could talk a little bit more about the importance of actually valuing.
Yeah. I would say to really flatten it out, intellectual property is everything that has value you cannot touch. So the things, ideas, words, lyrics, melodies. We have laws and legislation in Europe, but also where you are in the States to protect that. And currently, if you look at how companies like Suno and Audio are dealing with with intellectual property, we are absolutely against that, and not per se from the creative aspect, because we love AI, we want to use AI, but it's about the data sets they use to train the model, and that is trained on stolen music. And that means as somebody who's in the data set, you don't know you are in the data set, you won't be credited. You can not even start about thinking being compensated. Right. And there is no way to say this output, this song I created with this model is influenced by me in 5%, 10%, 80%. So there is no legal framework. And the thing that frustrates us sometimes a little bit is that the option to do it the right way is there. Like, we are not against innovation. We are not about pushing boundaries. We are not like when the calculator came that the math teachers went on the street and say nobody can do math by heart anymore. That's not the thing. The thing is that you are entering the game from, let's say, a deceiving perspective, and we want not to repeat history again, where if we now look at the position of the creator, the one who's doing all the work, the one who's creating the outputs, is coming in last, even if he's coming in line to be credited and to be paid. So all the people who know the law, all the people who are working at the corporations, all the people who have the financial backing to invest, they can reap the fruits of your hard work, sweat, creativity, and you are last in line to be paid. And I'm advocating to not repeat this with AI. And a lot of people are not seeing the difference. It's really about making sure creditors get credited and get paid in a fair and more or less transparent way.
Right. And I mean, that's one of the things that I typically see people say, you know, well, you can't fight against it. It's like, well, no, it's not trying to fight against it. But like you said, the capability is there. So why not just do it the right way? So, you know, again, this just kind of helps people put in perspective, you know, when you're talking about intellectual property, exactly what we mean by that. And so now, especially since the pandemic, I feel like it's been, I'm not sure what you've been seeing since, you know, you're closer to the industry than I am, but there have been a lot of catalog purchases. And so to see an opportunity like that arise, I guess, for independent artists or independent labels, I think is a huge thing. So can you talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, I can. I don't think that opportunity is there for individuals or small labels. I think this is a highly professionalized, let's say, a business where only the big dogs and the big bucks have the power to purchase and or sell catalogs. And that's also one of the things we are trying to change with our music exchange. That is a feature on Tracks that, as a retail investor, you can directly support the artist and the songs you love. And as an artist, you don't have to sell your master rights to a record label to have access to capital. But you can say, hey, instead of selling it to a record label for the rest of my life, I will share 5% or 10% of my future royalties with my fans, with my listeners, for a period of, let's say, 3 years or 5 years. And that brings, let's say, that's evening the playing field. Because currently, as a retail investor, you have almost no option to invest in music rights. And as an artist, and if you want to directly sell your music rights or find access to capital, chances are, let's say, 0 to none.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Who, if you could describe, who would be the ideal type of artist or label to benefit from something like this?
I would say that is a very broad spectrum. And that's also when we created this company in 2022. We learned from all the music tech initiatives that are on the, I call it the music tech graveyard. Well, how people say it, like, let's say, the way to hell is full of good intentions.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's also with this, because if you look at the situation, how it currently is for a small label or for an artist, you need to have direct contracts to distribute. Most of the people don't have that, so they basically use TuneCore or whatever. And nothing against parties like DistroKid, CD Baby, TuneCore. They are great aggregators, but they are maybe not really built to scale this for the artist. And even if you have, let's say, only 10 songs on Spotify, you have 50 monthly listeners, you have 50 people. Apparently, we don't know because Spotify is not transparent, but it says 50, so let's believe them, huh? Who are listening to your music, but you cannot connect with them. You cannot reward them for listening to your music. And you cannot ask them maybe to invest in you, even $10 to have the opportunity to rent some studio time or to make a cool video clip. Maybe you're gonna make the video clip even with AI, but you don't have that option to grow your career. So I think that's a very important wall currently. It's a brick wall in the music industry, in the creative sector, and we are trying to build a door there. We are trying to build a way you have access to capital. You know who your fans are. You can interact, you can chat, you can ask, you can reward, you can do whatever. Also for the bigger labels or for catalog owners or rights managers, they are also not aware of the data that's available. And DSPs have no intention giving you that data on your fans. Publishers will also have no intent to give you insights on how they are matching their statements. And because everybody is sitting on his own big mountain of data they see as their gold. And other initiatives are always trying to build something around the music industry. That means one, or you are ignoring rules and legislation, so you're not complying, so you're not scalable. You cannot really build a big company because you are basically breaking the law. Or you are building something that's not very interesting for all the music that's already released. Well, I gotta tell you, we did a lot of market research. The percentage of new music people listen based on old music they love and repeatedly listen is very in the advance of the old music. Let's say the evergreen economy. So you need to be compliant. You need to be compliant with that, and that's basically how we started building Smart Label. And then we came to the conclusion: okay, if you really want to do something different, then we need to put our money where our mouth is, and we need to build a worldwide, decentral, open source infrastructure-like company as Spotify, but where we don't own it ourselves. We are transparent about the data, and the artists and the rights owners are de facto always in control. So that means you know who's listening to your music. If people want to share that information, you can value your own IP. So you can say, if you want to stream my music, this is what I want for it. Maybe you need to pay me once. Maybe you can spin it 10 times. And if you want to spin it 11th time, you need to pay something. All those metrics you can set for yourself. And I think that's the way we can change things. And not overnight. It's not done by Monday next week. Also not by Monday next year, but if we do it in the right way and we show the industry that you still can make money, because that's the thing, eh? People think, oh, you cannot make money, it's open source, I gotta be attacked in my wallet and I want to protect that. If you show them a way how you can do it, you can even bigger the pie, because there are gonna be new income streams and new ways to monetize your music and your fandom. Then I think we will be on the right trajectory with each other.
That's incredible. So like I said, I mean, what you're offering is amazing and it's definitely needed. Are there any other like special features that you would kind of want to, so like I said, most of the people who listen to this are independent artists, some run labels, but yeah, any special features to kind of like, I guess, entice them to go ahead and find out more?
Yeah, well, I think I think the majority of the people will do it because it benefits you, because you, and then it's like a no-brainer. But a few things I think are very cool myself is that payments are direct and instant. So the moment somebody plays your song, the money will be available in your account and can also be extracted from your account. So you don't have to wait longer than, in this case, I think 7 seconds after the play is done. So I think that's a big game changer. Absolutely. The other thing is also a project that comes really from my heart. It's connected to Smart Label, of course, but we call it Smart Label Academy because I've been in the business for many years, as you know, and always people from all levels in the industry, I would say. So that can be a producer, a starting artist, a successful artist, a label manager, somebody who has a big ass catalog and want to sell it. They all are basically clueless how music rights work.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. And there is like a terminology that's completely off. So some people call it an X and some people call it a Y, but they are basically talking about the same thing. And sometimes you check it out and they are both wrong. So we said we need to create one cool free open place where you have access to all the information regarding the music industry, and we're gonna launch that in a few months. We are now in the building phase, so if people want to connect with me and feel on this, just shoot me an email, then I will get you in the loop. But basically it's an academy where you can find fair, transparent information about how things in the music industry work. So how do I register my rights? How do I protect my brand? But also, where can you can download a template contract with default settings where we say, hey, you can watch to this or watch to that, or a checklist, what you need to release, or how it works with a certain aggregator. Like, hey, somebody says I get 100%, and you think I get everything, but the question is 100% of what? All those standard pitfalls I needed to learn in the past decade by also going on my flat on my face sometimes. Um, I want to bring that to one place. So at least as a creative industry professional or aspired professional, you have a place where you can just double check your things, watch little videos, intro things, just have a safe haven of correct information that's not trying to sell you anything. So no commercial intent, no nothing of that, just a fair and safe, trustworthy place with information you need or information you would love to have before you put your signature under something you did not really understand. And a lot of people are afraid to ask for information because then they think they look stupid, and they're gonna Google it or gonna use ChatGPT, and they're gonna ask the wrong questions, so they will have the wrong answer.
Yeah.
So that's maybe that's really a project I love to do, and I'm very glad that now after a few years it's going to become a reality, because I think it's just cool. I think it needs to be there.
It definitely does. And that's very incredible. I've had a lot of music conversations, interviews. I've read a lot of press releases, and never have I once heard of anyone say, hey, I want to give you a transparent way to manage what you're doing, and I'm not looking for anything in return. So yeah, that's definitely awesome. So yeah, I'm noticing that the time is kind of winding up a little bit, and I want to make sure that if there's anything else that you want to share to make sure that people know.
No, I would say Tracks Manager will be live as from September, or global launch of the worldwide alternative for Spotify. We call it Tracks, a decentral open source client-side running music streaming app, will be available in January. Currently, we are in connect with a lot of people. We have our onboarding team ready, so you can go to the website smartlabel.media, book a meeting, just shoot us an email. We will get you in the loop, so you know what's up, and get your music, get your rights sorted out, and then train is leaving. Time to jump on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me and the listeners. And I definitely hope that they check out Smart Label, because what you're doing is incredible, and all the projects that you're working on. And I'd like to think that maybe this could be the first of a series at some point. So as you guys roll out new stuff, and maybe I can have you back on in the future.
Yeah, I will put you high on our mailing list.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you what you're doing. I think it's great. Of course, I followed you a bit, so that's also, we don't take all podcast or interview requests, but what you're doing is great, and we really appreciate and support you. So that's also why I will be here anytime you will email or call me, because I'm a big fan of you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer, Chick with Beats, and I'm so glad to announce that I have in the virtual building with me today Ralph Tasjian, the founder and chairman of Intercept Music. And so, first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to come and speak with me and the listeners. And if you could, maybe give people a little bit of background on what Intercept Music is. Well, actually, let's start with you first, the man behind it all. Your relationship with music and how you got started with this.
Sure. Chick with Beats, thanks. I appreciate the time. I love this. A big part of who I am and what I've done in my life, and this great career that I've been fortunate to have. It's important to give back to me. So, if I can, I hope there's some words of wisdom here somewhere that could help young developing artists and labels to, help enhance their career and have growth. So that's really important to me. Thank you for the opportunity here.
Absolutely.
I started as a young guy here in San Francisco, California. I'm currently here now. I spend my time between Mexico City and San Francisco. We have an international company, Intercept Music, that I'm the chairman of, that I co-founded. But I started my career here in San Francisco promoting records. I got very lucky. I was a young musician, a drummer, a bad one at that. And there was no career for me as a musician. So I was able to get the next best thing, and that was promoting records. And at a young age, at 24, 25, I went to work for MCA Universal here in San Francisco and got promoted to Seattle and ran that market, and then got promoted to New York and ran that market, and have nothing but wild stories to tell about that. And then I got hired by a company, 20th Century Records, in about the mid 70s, and I ran that promotion department for a number of years. And what an incredible journey on that one, because I was right behind and responsible for 2 Academy Award winning singles with Maureen McGovern, The Morning After, and there was another one in there, and then all of the Barry White stuff, Love Unlimited. I marketed and promoted all of that from the inception. So that's my, I have a few gold records behind me, and those are my favorites. Okay, so I was very fortunate, and then went to from there went to Island and spent some time at Island before it was Def Jam, and Marley and Robert Palmer and all of that stuff, and then from there. In about 1980, I started promoting records independently. At that time, there was, people that had real relationships with radio stations that could actually move the needle and get records played. I did that for quite some time, for about 10 years. And that was like it was like a hired gun, right? Just going out and getting records played. And I remember exactly where I was, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I go, wow, this is not what I want. This is not what I did. It was like, let's make a deal. I've lost, the whole, the love that I have for music. So I started my own label in 2000, and it was a hip hop label, primarily out of the Bay, and we had a lot of Killer Mike. We had some international stuff. We had Rakim, and then all of the local stuff. A lot of the local hip hop stuff, West Coast hip hop stuff. We did really well for a lot of years. We did really, really well. And one of the things that I like to tell young people, and anybody in general that was building their career, building their business, when you're an entrepreneur, you just go, right? And you have to be able to have the instincts and the savvy to look at the marketplace and know when it's time to shift and maybe to reinvent yourself. Maybe if it's a creative thing. Maybe your beats are dated. Maybe you need to update your sound. I don't know. I'm not a creative person. But what I've been able to do, it's a gift, is that I've been able to reinvent myself. And when I saw that things weren't going the way that there was any future, I was able to, adjust. So I had the label, and it was, I had some hits, and I saw a big hole in the Latin market, so I started to move into the Latin market and do a little bit of that. And had a top 10 hit with a Daddy Yankee protege, little kid named Miguelito. He was the youngest person ever to win a Grammy.
Wow.
And we put out a record, and we went to top 10 in Billboard, and I think we sold about 2,000 CDs. And I said, okay, it's either take your toys, Ralph, and go home, or it's time to reinvent yourself one more time. And so here I am, Intercept Music. So I knew I had to go into the digital space. The writing was on the wall. We had the old traditional deals at record companies where they really owned everything. They were accounting to you 6 months after the release and paying you 90 days after that 6 months. Well, that was virtually impossible to compete with a digital distributor that was paying the artists every 30 days.
Right.
You don't compete. So here we are. I said, okay, well, this is what we've got to do. And I started to build Intercept Music along with my partner, Todd Turner.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that I talk about something that I want. It was a miserable failure for about 2.5 years. I completely had the wrong developers. I had the wrong people. I had the wrong thing. And I was able to adjust and get out of that. And until I found my partner, Todd Turner, who's a tech genius, we weren't able to build a company now where we have billions of streams, hundreds and hundreds of artists and independent labels. We built a platform that we think is second to none with respect to two things that are critically important in everything that you read about independent music, independent distribution, independent distributors, and the digital world. That is transparency and customer service. And we've done those two things. And we do those two things, which separates us from our competitors.
Absolutely. I know, at least as far as distribution goes, I've seen and heard so many different complaints, and those are the top two complaints that people have with some of the popular distributors.
No question.
Yeah. So, I mean, your experience lets you know that that's kind of what you needed to focus on. Can you talk a little bit more about what the distribution process is like using Intercept Music?
Yeah. We like to call it technology with transparency. How to transform how you release your music. We created a dashboard that allows, let's say you're an independent label and not an artist, but a label. Mm-hmm. We've created a dashboard where an independent label can come in, sign up as a label, and then have all of the artists that they sign underneath them, basically white label, come through our system. And with their dashboard, they can manage their label. And inside of their label, they could show their artists what their streaming numbers look like and what kind of revenue they generated, without them seeing all of the other artists on that independent label.
Nice.
So it's designed and created for the independent labels and artists as well, but we like labels. And there's another component that we put to it that we're really proud of, and that's the merch component. So we have merch on demand. We have a direct link through Shopify. The artist gets 30% right off the top.
Nice.
So if they sell a $20 t-shirt, they make 30% off of that, which equates to about 5,000 streams.
Mm,
So every t-shirt you sell financially is the equivalent to about 5,000 streams.
wow. That's just so bizarre, looking at the the way that things are set up these days. And so, yeah, well, mainly with the experience that you have, for going back to when you started through what you've seen now, how challenging do you think that is for artists to actually understand the economics of it and how streaming is set up to, benefit?
Yeah, it's everything like in life is a double-edged sword. You know, there's pros and there's cons. And there's, believe it or not, there's a lot that's the same. Okay. So if you had a single in the 60s, you still had to market it. However you marketed it was whether it was radio or whether it was going around to DJs yourself and bringing it to them. Now today you have social media. You still have to market it. I don't know how many million songs a month are coming out, right? And you have to rise above the noise. That's a term we like to use. It's marketing is a critical key and social media is a critical key into the success of an artist and a label today. And how you communicate with your artists, with your fans, is critical. And so we think that that's a big part of growth. One thing we've been able to do is we've incorporated some AI, not AI music, but AI that can help you create a marketing plan designed for you, rather than a marketing plan designed for an artist that doesn't, that you can always create an elaborate marketing plan with an endless amount of money, but nobody has that. You need to create a marketing plan for yourself, how to advertise, where to advertise, what playlisting you should do in order to get from here to there, something that makes sense based on your budget, based on your socials, and based on how many followers, listeners you have, monthly listeners you have on Spotify.
Okay.
So we've incorporated some of those things.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there are a lot of positive uses for AI in music. I think a lot of times lately it's just kind of synonymous with generative, but there are so many other ways that it can help with technology. So yeah, aside from, just creating music, just to be able to market it and, there's a lot of different things. I actually did a blog post about it a while back, just because I kept hearing so many things like, okay, AI is bad for music. Well, there's other ways to use it besides what most people are thinking that doesn't replace creators.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And if it's used properly, it could really, based on your, if you plug in the right information, and we had to create that how to speak to it, right? But you create what genre it is, country, urban, hip hop, pop, rock, or whatever, and how many followers you have, what your socials look like, and how you should market to take yourself to the next level. It'll give you a pretty accurate outline of some things that it recommends that you should do. Now that doesn't mean you do them all, but it means that you pick and choose, and at least you have something to base whatever you're spending the money on. One of the other things that we use AI for that is really interesting, because one of the things that we've noticed with independent artists, especially, not labels so much, because if it's an independent label, there's normally some sort of a label manager that's making sure the artists do their, posts frequently or the right way, or get their messaging out right. So we use AI to help you create posts, and we have a technology in our platform that allows you to post on all of your socials from our dashboard.
Nice.
Scheduled out for 30 days in advance, and you could use AI to help you create the posts, maybe using the lyrics of the song or whatever you program into it. We have that in our system, and then it'll give you 30 posts to put out, and you could edit those posts. Oh yeah, that's corny, I don't want to do that, but at least it gives you ideas or something to think about. You take them or you leave them.
Right.
So it's a sophisticated platform.
That's excellent. And just to think about the time that it would save, because I know how long it takes to, kind of consider like, okay,
and
what
then
am I
you
going to
become
post here?
you're thinking, well, God, you need ideas, right, in order
Yeah,
to keep it fresh. So I
yeah,
think it helps.
absolutely. So yeah, I would like to ask about the recent 50 million that you have for music catalog acquisition.
Yeah,
First of all,
wow,
congratulations.
it's a big deal.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a big deal. And it's interesting because uh, uh, there's a lot of money out there for catalog acquisitions. Now, our company, Intercept Music, is you would consider us somewhere in between a Virgin, Universal, and a DistroKid, for instance.
Okay.
We're in between. We're that company that's a little bit more, that we feel that we're more. It's about. We're not there to just put out a single, and we're there for the artists and the labels that are a little bit more serious about their career, right?
Right.
And these catalog acquisitions that are happening at a high level, okay, are really these are really just to make it. These are primarily Wall Street people.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily music people, because they see an asset. Asset is like a piece of property,
Mm-hmm.
right? You hope that it goes up in value based on what's going on around it. So they're big deals, right? They're catalogs that are being acquired, and they're able to be monetized because they're X amount of monthly listeners, and how much money it's generating every month, and there's a certain multiple that they use as a formula, and that's how they come up with a number. But there's a whole new part of the catalog pieces, which kind of where we fit, that's in between, just like our company. Our company's in between, a TuneCore and Virgin. There's catalogs out there that are in between. Some that aren't generating a lot of money, but there is a long-term value to them. Some are gospel catalogs, which I've got two great ones right now. And so some of them are monetized currently, and some of them, I had a call this morning with one that just has all of the content, some on DAT, some on reel,
Wow.
some on quarter inch, some on different, and here it is. So yes, we're here. It's like a self-propelling model for our distribution company, if that makes.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so I'm going to try to be careful with how I word this question, because I'm not trying to get you to give out the secret sauce or anything. But what are some of the things that you look for with these acquisitions? So, you mentioned like with the, bankers and stuff actually coming in, investing in the assets. A lot of this stuff kind of tends to be evergreen. So are you looking for like a certain feeling, or, just the talent base for when you choose?
No, we're looking at potential revenue.
Okay.
So some, like the financial, like the institutional financial companies of the world that have gotten big funds to go out and do this.
Yeah.
They have a formula right now. Look, use Springsteen as an example. They can probably come up with a valuation to buy the Springsteen catalog. Not that would be for sale, because it's probably still with Columbia, but just using that as an example, based on what they're currently streaming. Those numbers are there. Get the statements, year or two of statements from Columbia Records, and they can see that every Springsteen title, how much Springsteen's generated, and that's how they would base their offer.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, sometimes it's 6 times, it could be up as high as 10 times yearly revenue. Now, Other ones that are on DAT and quarter-inch tape, it's kind of a little bit more of a kind of a gotta get a feel.
Yeah.
We had one this morning that had great gospel content, Reverend James Cleveland, and a number of different things, and we'd have to kind of guess along that, right? We'd
Right.
have to guess that. So it's a formula, and some of there are companies that just appraise some of these catalogs as well, just like you'd go out and get a house appraised.
Yeah. A lot of people listening probably don't know this, but my background before actually diving into music, I got my bachelor's in marketing and my master's in finance. And so, yeah, it was
You
actually
get this
doing
then.
yeah, like the price to earnings ratio and all that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
you get this. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I get what you mean. And, it's just kind of been interesting to watch all these deals and stuff that have gone down. So yeah, that again, congratulations on the 50 million.
Well, thank
That's
you
no
very
easy
much.
feat.
It's been hey, listen, I want to just, this is hard work. You have to have determination. You have to believe in yourself. You have to not give up. You've got to keep moving forward no matter what. And that's my number one message to people, to entrepreneurs, people that really believe. You know what it is? You can't live in fear. You have to live in a world of faith and looking at things with limitless possibilities.
Mm.
Now, the trick with that is not being delusional at the same time. So you've got to watch the signs around you. But common sense, hard work, belief, that's the formula to success.
Wow. So many excellent gems. I really appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story, your experience, and just kudos to you. I'm not seeing a lot of people who have the experience that you have, but still willing to share and teach so freely. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And
Hey, it comes from the heart and it comes from love. I love what I do. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. And so to me, it's just what I do. My kids say to me, say, Dad, what, you're going to retire? I go, well, what am I going to do? Go to Home Depot and buy a drill? What would I do with it? Wouldn't know what to do.
you're right. And especially,
But, don't forget, there's a lot of opportunities out there for young artists today with YouTube, with the internet. Let's just one thing before people are discovering music today in ways that we never could imagine music would get discovered. Back in the day, there was only one way, and that was probably through some DJ on a radio station. Today, it's multiple ways. And the other beauty about today is that young people today, when I was young growing up, it was either listen to an urban station, an R&B station, a top 40 station, a country station, right? Kids today are hearing everything, and they don't put things in those kind of genres. If they hear a country track they like it.
right.
If they hear an urban track they like it. Doesn't matter. They're not programmed like that. So there's endless opportunities, and it's always about, and it always will be about, from the beginning to the end, about the music.
Mm.
It's about the song. It's about the music.
That's so awesome. Yeah, once again, I just want to thank you again. The door is always open. Anything else you want to come back and discuss, I'd love to have you again. But yeah, thank you so much.
Anytime you'd like, we'll be there for you, no matter what. I can get some of our other people in the company as well that are pretty smart tech people.
I'd love that.
Content ID, really important, different ways to generate revenue.
Yes.
We have people. Let us know.
I'm a metadata preacher.
We're here to help. We're here to help.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chick with a Beat. God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I'm your host, music producer, Chick with Beats. And I'm excited, thrilled, and delighted to say that in the virtual building I have with me today, Jesse Flores, Vice President of Artist and Label Partnerships for Intercept Music. So first of all, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and speak with me. And if you could just give us a little background on who you are, how you got involved in music, and what led you to where you are today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. I am a music lover like many of us. When I was young, I wanted to be in the music business. Wasn't sure how to figure that out at the time. I was raised in Florida, grew up there, went to high school, college out there. And when I was in college, I was performing music. I played the saxophone, but I didn't want to like major in it. And there wasn't no music business major or any type of classes at my school at the time, University of Florida. So what I started doing was selling mixtapes. My mom's from the Bronx, so we used to go to New York every summer, and I used to love going there because I get all my clothes, all my gear, and also all the mixtapes that were out right now at the time. I'm sorry, from all the big time DJs like DJ Clue and Ron G and SNS and Doo-Wop, Tony Touch, all these guys. All these mixtapes we didn't get down there in Florida. So I would go up there. I made a connection with the guy in Fulton Street in Brooklyn. He had a store called Fat Jams, a guy named Joey. Told him who I was, what I wanted to do, and he would send down to me mixtapes and CDs every week or so to sell. And I'd get them from UPS, COD, and I just kept calling him every week. He's like, man, you're doing great things down there because you're constantly hitting me up. So I did that for a while, which was great. And I found out that our school had an agency that booked shows. And they had a budget of like $250,000. So I signed up for that. It was a student-run agency called Student Government Productions. And through that, we were able to book some amazing shows, especially in the hip-hop genre. During my time there, we brought The Far Side, Tribe Called Quest, Lost Boys, Redman. So some really good names back then. It was a great learning experience. And while I was at SGP, we used to get CMJ magazine. And CMJ had some classifieds, and they said that, one of the distribution companies, Polygram Group Distribution, was looking for a college rep in Florida. So I was like, man, that looks like a great opportunity. Let me see if I can apply for that. I was a senior at the time, so I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but I, met with the guy, hiring for that position. And after a couple of times talking to him, he eventually hired me, which is great. And I officially became a college rep for Polygram. And at the time, Polygram had Def Jam, they had Motown, they had Island Records. So a lot of great, music labels at the time. And it was on and popping from them because, I became the college rep. I graduated. I got a job offer in Detroit and LA to be a field rep. And I chose to go to LA, which is a great decision on my part because that's kind of like where everything kind of springboarded from my career. Moved out to LA and rose up the ranks from college rep to artist development rep. And after being in LA for about maybe 8 months, Universal Music Group decided to purchase Polygram. So it was a big merger. And I was fortunate enough to stay on board with Universal Music Group going forward. Same situation as with Polygram, field rep, marketing rep, and then I got a job as a sales rep for Universal, and that was great because I got to work with a lot of the good retail stores out here in Los Angeles, like Tower Records and Virgin, and all the cool indie stores out here as well. So it was just an amazing experience. Did that for a few years, and in 2004. I got a job opportunity at EMI Music to be their head of urban marketing, which was a huge step for me because that was an actual natural progression in my career, as well as a national position where I was just a regional sales guy prior to that. So at EMI, I was able to spread my wings and, really work with some great artists. And we also started doing something interesting, which is different from what a lot of companies were doing at the time, the three majors, which was offering independent artists distribution deals where, EMI or one of our labels, Capitol or Virgin, they didn't own the masters, the artists owned the masters. We just provided services for them. So that was kind of the impetus of this whole, distribution deal with indies because we had a lot of great success there. I was able to sign Ice Cube, I signed Trina, Bobby V, Raekwon, Twista. We just had a really good artist roster at the time, and Tyrese was another big one. We gave Tyrese his first #1 album, believe it or not. So from 04 to like 2012 was a great run with EMI, and bringing some independent artists and having success with them as well. Another merger happened. Universal purchased EMI, so I went through that whole situation, and after that, I decided to join Ingrooves, which was a distribution company based in Los Angeles and San Fran, and had another great run. I was doing label development and management there for a lot of great artists for several years. I was at Ingrooves for about 9-10 years. And then they got bought by Universal Music Group. So another merger happened. Universal merged Ingrooves with Virgin Music Group. And after that, I separated from the company and found a great opportunity here at Intercept Music with the co-founders, Ralph Tashian, who you know, and as well as Todd Turner, also our co-founder. And I've been here for a few months and it's been great. Love it.
First of all, that's an amazing journey.
Yeah.
Especially some of the artists that you got to work with.
Absolutely.
You named a huge range of people. Say from the time that you realized that you wanted to be in the industry, who would you say were some of the artists that kind of influenced that most? Like before you got to doing what you're doing now?
You mean as far as like artists that I grew up listening to type of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody. My mom, she was really into Motown. So growing up, I heard a lot of all the Motown artists, you know, Supremes to, you know, the Jacksons to everybody. She loved music and always played music, especially going on little road trips or whatever, or on vacation. So I don't know if that's where I found my love for music, but, you know, it was always something that I was interested in. And then growing up, I grew up in Florida. So a lot of the Florida artists were very instrumental into, you know, my love for music, and I loved hip hop and rap. So, you know, it was everybody from like Two Live Crew to Poison Clan to Jam Pony Express to DJ Uncle Al, like all these guys that were kind of bubbling locally, you know, I was a big fan of. And then just growing up in the South, heavily influenced by like Outkast and UGK and 8-Ball and MJG, those type of artists. And then, you know, having ties to New York through my mom's side of the family, everybody in New York was, you know, obviously a big influence. And that's everyone from like Rakim to Wu-Tang to Nas to Jay-Z, all the greats. So big influence. And you know what? I loved West Coast music as well, you know, because when I was in high school was, you know, it was a lot of Ice Cube, a lot of DJ Quick. So those type of artists were influential as well.
Absolutely. So, okay, since you mentioned Wu-Tang as part of your influences, how did it feel once you actually got to work with some of the members?
I had to pinch myself. I could not, you know, believe that I was getting paid to do it. It was a dream of mine. I think the one artist that really had a big influence on my career was Ice Cube, because obviously I was a fan as a kid. And then when I got a chance to work with him, I got to shout out Tony Draper, who was very influential in bringing that partnership to EMI at the time. You know, obviously working with a living legend as far as I'm concerned, but then the guy was the consummate professional. Like, he was always on time. Whatever opportunities we brought to the table, he approved them. He did everything, you know, to a T. Like, I was just amazed at how the work ethic he had. Like, he was nonstop. Like, this is a man that, you know, in my opinion, he does things his own way, and he does it to the best of his ability. And, you know, he does whatever he wants to do, and he does it, you know, the right way. So, you know, that's someone I think Ice Cube would say is the one person, if I had to name one, that had a big influence.
It's amazing. I know, at least for me, sometimes depending on who it is, I get a little starstruck, and you know, it might kind of throw me off my game for a minute. So yeah, to, I guess, come from admiring them to being able to work with them and do it smoothly, I commend you. I don't know if I could do it that smoothly, but yes. So, okay, you know, from the time frame that you started getting involved till now, what are some of the biggest changes that you say that you've seen, you know, pros, cons, good or bad in the industry?
So my entire pedigree in the business has been distribution, and over the past 25 years, it has changed drastically. You know, when I got in the business, you know, it was all about retail for distribution. So all the physical retailers had a big part of it, the indie retailers, you know, the Best Buys, the Targets, the Sam Goodies, Walmart at the time was big. Even Kmart was selling music. So it was all about, you know, selling that record into those stores, making sure they buy a decent amount so you can have a really strong first week sales. And there was also a lot of pricing wars at the time too. I was young, but at the time, like, you know, that was when Best Buy and Walmart were like selling CDs for like, you know, $6.99 to $9.99, which is really, really low as far as, price range when considering if you're an independent record store and you're buying your product from a one-stop distributor. A lot of times the prices at Best Buy and Walmart were cheaper than the one-stop. So why even go to the one-stop? Just go to Best Buy and buy all your stock, because you're getting a better price. So that's kind of what was going on at the time, and that was a big challenge for a lot of people. And then, in 2001, I think that's when iTunes opened their store, which was a game changer because, they were selling digital downloads and nobody had done that before. They also had the hardware to support it, with the iPod. So that was a game changer. And we noticed that this is going to, obviously be a big player going forward. And then in 2011, I believe that's when Spotify came to the US. And that was another game changer because now you can just stream music. You don't have to download it. You can access music and have, at the touch of your hand, the millions of songs, and add them to playlists and create your own playlist and be your own, editor basically when it comes to, the type of music you listen to. So it was, it's definitely changed, to be honest. The industry's been cut in half since I started in the late 90s. There were 6 major distributors and now there's 3. So, everything's been cut in half. There's a lot of consolidation, but at the same time, there's a lot of growth for the independent sector. That's why independents are, I think they attribute maybe 48 to 50% of all, the recorded music business is coming from the indies, which is amazing and great news for a company like Intercept Music that super serves the indie artist and label community.
It really is. So can you talk a little bit more about that for anyone who may have missed the interview with Ralph, but the opportunities that you guys provide?
Yeah. So Intercept Music is a next generation distribution company for indie artists and labels, founded in 2018. And I like to think of ourselves as a perfect mix of music, tech, and people. Music because that's our core business, distributing your music to the masses. Tech because that's the backbone of our company. Our platform and our dashboard is second to none. And people because we have a team of great employees and just incredible people that are there to super serve our indie partners on a daily basis. So all that combined, we're poised to really have a great run going forward. We do extremely well with Latin music right now. We're building up our US repertoire as well, and now's the right time. It's really a great time to be independent and be with a company like Intercept Music if you really want to grow your business, because we're not just a distributor, and there's a lot of just people out there, a lot of companies out there that can distribute your product from A to B, but there's more to that. We want to be your strategic growth partner. We want to be there to help build your career. We're going to be able to talk to you, discuss release strategy, kind of help you go through the woods and just kind of figure out how do you rise above that noise.
It's really incredible work that you're doing. So since most of the audience kind of falls into that category of independent artists, what type of advice do you have for them when they're, I guess, looking to make that decision? Like you stated, there are a bunch of distributors out there, but I mean, not all of them cover the same needs. So what advice would you have for artists that are looking to kind of narrow it down and figure out who to choose?
Well, I think you got to have a vision, and you also got to have a plan, in order to be successful in a competitive business like the music industry. You really need to separate yourself from everybody else. Why should anybody care about what you're putting out? You really got to build a fan base that's fully engaged. You got to have a story to tell, whether it's with your music, for example, you need to have a consistent flow of releases. You can't put out music for like a year or two and then go away and not put anything out for 2-3 years and then, I want to start putting out music again. That's not going to work because you're essentially going to have to start over, especially as a developing artist. Music is always changing. It's very competitive. There's so many tracks being released every day. You got to be there for your fans and let them know what you have coming out. Be consistent with that. Also with your messaging on social media to support your releases, be consistent with that as well. Got to have a plan. Also have a good team around you. I'd say a good team of about 5 people, which I call the Fantastic Five. It's a good manager, a good entertainment attorney, distributor, publicist, and online marketing and social media specialist. Having those people in your corner helping you develop that plan is vital, in my opinion, for success. And you also got to be patient and resilient. It's not going to happen overnight for a lot of people, for most people. So, if you got to be able to stay in the game, have that vision, and be really up for the challenge, because it's not going to be easy.
Thank you so much for that. That's some excellent advice. Appreciate you dropping those gems. Yeah. So especially even considering your career, with all the different changes that you've been through and witnessed, all the buyouts as the labels were consolidating, how were you able to just keep rolling from one thing to the next without, hesitation?
Well, it's the music business. It's always about the next best opportunity. And believe it or not, it is kind of a small world, and it's getting smaller. And it's crucial to have relationships with good people. And for example, Ralph and Todd, the co-founders of Intercept, I've known Ralph for about 15, 17 years. And we've kept in touch. He knew me when I was at EMI. And he was always, a great person to kind of, talk with and catch up with and discuss things about the business. And then when I became a free agent, it was only right that, one, he reached out to me, and two, I seriously consider, what he has developed, his vision, and, where he's going to take the company forward in the future. And I thought, this is a great opportunity for me. The time is right now. Let's partner together and really grow this company and take it to the next level.
Thank you for that. I had to ask because, a lot of times as creatives, we might be kind of nervous to keep going. Your career is a good example of that, and how you just kept pushing through. And it's really commendable.
Yeah, I've been through about 5 mergers, survived 3 of them. So there's been a couple of times where I've been laid off, and, I could have laid down and given up and gotten outside the industry. But I'm thankful that I'm blessed to have a lot of good friends that, care about me and what I've done in the past, and believe in me, trust in me, and wanted to give me an opportunity.
So I don't want you to give away any secrets that you can't, but what's next on the pipeline for what you're doing specifically in your department? Whatever you can share.
Well, it's really trying to better our service offering for our partners, artists and label partners. And a lot of that is with our dashboard and the tools that we provide. If you join Intercept Music, you'll be able to obviously upload and distribute your music to the masses, but you can also provide a merch store. Say you have a new release and it's a catchy single with a catchy hook, and you want to put out some merch. All that can be done within our dashboard with our integration with Shopify, which is amazing. You can also use AI in a marketing capacity on our dashboard. So say you need to come up with some social media messaging for some posts coming up to support the release, or you need a bio or a maybe a press release. All that can be generated through AI within our dashboard. Same thing with a marketing plan. We're getting to that too. That's on the roadmap for AI in our on our dashboard. You can also book advertising, digital advertising, Spotify advertising, outdoor advertising, YouTube advertising. All that can be done within the dashboard. So all these tools, which are created for our artists and labels to use, are very helpful in helping build their career.
So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. A lot of times I think artists don't really understand, all the different things that are out there, just because so much focus tends to be on, some of the larger platforms. So I appreciate you taking the time to break that down. And if you could, I want to make sure that everybody knows where they can find you, follow you, kind of keep up with all the good stuff that you've got going on.
Yes, you can find us at interceptmusic.com, or on IG. You can send us a DM at Intercept Music Official, or say if you're an artist or label and you want to figure out how to take your career to the next level. Maybe you have 5,000 followers on Spotify or 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can hit me up directly on email. I'm at jesse.flores@interceptmusic.com.
Great. Thank you so much. And you've already dropped so many gems, but I just want to make sure that there's time, if there's something else that you kind of want to leave the listeners with.
If you're an artist and you're, an emerging artist, just trying to figure out what to do, reach out to us, because that's what we're here for. We're here to be your partner. We want to help you grow. like I said, in the U.S. specifically, we really want to really make an impact and, prove that Intercept is definitely the next level distribution company that's going to make some noise going forward. And we're here for that. So, yeah, any questions, any comments, or you just want to find more info about the company, please feel free to reach out to me.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right, and that's a wrap for this episode of Instrumental Intel. I've been your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Once again, as always, I appreciate the guests for coming on and sharing their insights. And I'd like to thank my home station, Grander Radio, out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Make sure you come back next week. I got more goodness lined up for you. So, till next time, you know where to find me. Tune in, tell a friend, and I'll see you then. Peace.